In this video, we'll go over how to get more than one ingot out of each ore using Mekanism ore processing, whether it be 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or even 5 times ingots. Hello everyone and welcome to my annual video. I mean, that's a joke, but only kind of barely. I haven't uploaded in I think it's almost 3 months at this point. Life is chaos, and most of you who are watching this aren't subs, so you're not watching this when it's uploaded. You're probably looking up how to get 5x ore processing on Mekanism, so that'll be coming up for sure. I'll show you all the machines and everything for 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below and let me know what part of Mekanism you'd like me to go over next. This is Mekanism 10. It's in 1.16.1, so just keep that in mind. It might or might not work in previous versions. And if you have a mod spotlight you'd like to see, I'll be making more videos on that too. So go ahead and leave those suggestions down below too. And of course, if you get any useful information from this video, don't forget to smash the like button to help my channel grow and reach a new audience. When I make these mod spotlight topic kind of things, I expect that you can use JEI and figure out how to use recipes yourself. If you can't, I will be doing a mod spotlight on JEI soon, so that'll be up in the iCard if it's done by now. But yeah, basically I just assume you can look up recipes on your own. Anyway, let's get into this. So doubling your ores is pretty simple. All it takes is 2 machines. It takes the Enrichment Chamber and a smelter of some kind. It doesn't even have to be an energized smelter. That's just the one Mekanism gives you. So you put your 1 ore in, it'll duplicate in here, it'll smelt in here, and it'll output there. Now that was obviously sped up, but as you can see, 1 ore went in, 2 ingots came out. So pretty simple. That's the simplest setup. So to make this, it's pretty simple. You just put down an Enrichment Chamber, put down an energized smelter. You go into them and you make sure you turn on eject on. And then you can also put the eject on. Oh, that one automatically ejects. Anyway, that way it'll eject out to this side and you can input from the top. Pretty simple. Just 2 machines. Now, generally as we go down the process, you take the machines you used in the last one and you just add stuff to where your input is. So this is where the input was last time. So you have the Enrichment Chamber and the energized smelter. And so for this one, you add the crusher and the Purification Chamber and a couple other things. Basically everything in this chest. So you want a pump or some kind of infinite water source. If you have other mods, you can just use their infinite water sources. And you want that to go into an Electrolytic Separator. Basically you want to take out the oxygen from that and pump it into the Purification Chamber, which will then purify the ore, tripling it. Then you have to crush it, and then you have to enrich it, and then you have to smelt it. As you can see, that tripled it. Basically, you just, let's go from the end. So you just do what you did on the last one. Enrichment Chamber, smelter, outputs, same thing. I'm not going to do it for every single one because it's going to be the same thing. Basically, you can just copy your setup and then input your item into whatever the first step of the last one was. And then you're going to want to put your crusher feeding into your Enrichment Chamber, your Purification Chamber feeding into your crusher, and you'll be inputting items into the Purification Chamber. Just keep that in mind. The Electrolytic Separator, when you place it down, the left side, so if you're looking from back to front, I guess, the right side, but basically the left side will be hydrogen, the right side will be oxygen. So the left side will output hydrogen, the right side will output oxygen. So if you don't want the hydrogen, you can just dump excess, and that's that. And then you want to pump your water into that, like so. You want an infinite water source beneath that pump, power everything, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I have some extra pipes and stuff because I was trying to figure out what was going wrong, and I realized now that this one, the pump outputs to the top, so this setup wouldn't work because I believe that let's see, this side is the power side, the green side. So keep that in mind. Output to the top, and then you want input into the Electrolytic Separator. I think this is technically supposed to be an input, but as you can see, you can input into any side pretty much. So when you go up to quadrupling your ores, I guess it's not quadrupling your ores, you're processing 4 X, whatever, it doesn't matter. Then you have to have this thermal evaporation plant, which I will be going over those in the next video. But basically that will be making brine, right, which will go into an electrolytic separator, which will give you sodium and chlorine. Dump the excess sodium. Your chlorine will go into a chemical infuser with hydrogen, which is the other thing from water in the electrolytic separator. I would have a separate electrolytic separator because there's a chance that you have too much oxygen and not enough hydrogen, or too much hydrogen and not enough oxygen. So your factory will basically just shut down because it won't have enough of one or the other. So I just always dump excess on one and do the opposite for the other one. And then those combine into hydrogen chloride, which will go into the chemical injection chamber, which will be the input for this one. That will quadruple it. And then that goes into the purification chamber, which purifies it, purifies a little more, etc., making 4 times the ores. As you can see, that quadrupled the ores. So we're going to assume you have the setup from last step. Basically, you want your chemical injection chamber, which will feed into your purification chamber. So this will be your new input. You want a thermal evaporation plant. This is not a plant. This is just the block for the placeholder. You can use the same pump for both electrolytic separators. It might require some speed upgrades, but it also might not. It depends on the speed at which it processes. I'm not 100% sure. I think I only have one pump over here. Oh no, I have 2. So you might need 2 pumps. I don't know. Or just speed upgrades in one pump. That one will make hydrogen, which will go into the chemical infuser. This one will take the brine from the thermal evaporation plant and get chlorine out of there. And you have to have a pump for the plant. So that's why that's there. And once that's all hooked up, once you input into the chemical injection chamber, then all the way down here, it'll quadruple your ores. Now this next step, when you get to ore quintupling, it gets a little more complicated. There's a lot more steps before you get to, this is where you start, on the last step. So you have to do all this stuff over here. It's a little more complicated. Basically, to start, you want to get sulfur dioxide, which you get from sulfur, and in Mekanism there's 2 ways to make sulfur. So the first one takes coal or charcoal blocks into a pressurized reaction chamber with oxygen and water, and it gives off a byproduct of hydrogen. So you might want to have that in a tank so you can dump excess of that, because you can't do it in this interface. So oxygen you make with a electrolytic separator, and the water you can pump in with a pump like this. So that's one way to do it. If you have like a tree farm that's automatically making charcoal or something like that, this is the perfect one. However, if you have a creeper farm that is giving off a lot of gunpowder, this is another way. You get a chemical injection chamber instead of the PRC, pressurized reaction chamber, and you put hydrogen chloride into it, which is the same thing you're making for the chemical injection chamber, so you can just pump that over there. Speed upgrades to some of the machines maybe, depending on how much you're processing, you know. And then gunpowder will turn into the sulfur. And from there, this step is pretty much the same. You put the sulfur into a chemical oxidizer to make the sulfur dioxide, which you then pump into a chemical infuser with oxygen, which of course is another electrolytic separator with water, dumping the hydrogen. And oxygen and the sulfur dioxide together make sulfur trioxide, which you then pump all the way over to this chemical infuser with some water vapor to make sulfuric acid. The water vapor comes from a rotary condensator. Water into water vapor. You might have to click the toggle operation button. If the arrow is pointing right, that's condensating, and if it's pointing to the left, it's decondensating. It's confusing. Basically, you just have to click this button if it's not doing it right. Pumping water in there. And then you take the sulfuric acid, you put it into the chemical dissolution chamber, which is where you put the ore. So the ore goes into the chemical dissolution chamber. It becomes a dirty, in this case, iron slurry. which you then clean. So you do water in the slurry, makes the clean slurry, which you can then crystallize in the chemical crystallizer. And then you pump that into the chemical injection chamber, and everything from that step on is the same as it was before. This one will quintuple because 200 ml buckets of the slurry becomes 1 ingot, and it makes 1,000 ml buckets. So we can watch that. So as you can see, that quintupled the ore. So I put 1 ore in, blah blah blah, all the way down here to 5 times. So, you know, setup, everything's the same. You're going to be inputting into the chemical injection chamber. So we'll just take a 90 degrees here with all the new information. But, you know, you could set this up so it's all in a straight line or whatever, instead of whatever mess this is. You can definitely compact like all of the things I've done. You just have to do it better than I did, basically. Okay, so chemical crystallizer. Nope, that's not where it goes. So chemical crystallizer goes into the chemical injection chamber. Chemical washer goes into the chemical crystallizer. Chemical dissolution chamber goes into the chemical washer. You're going to need the rotary condensator to make the water vapor. You need the chemical infuser to make the sulfuric acid that goes into the chemical dissolution chamber. You're going to need the chemical infuser to make the sulfur trioxide from the oxygen and the sulfur dioxide. Chemical oxidizer makes the sulfur dioxide from sulfur. Apparently this one I had copied has energy in it and sulfur. So electrolytic separator makes oxygen to put in with the sulfur dioxide to make sulfur trioxide. It's a really convoluted setup, but basically you're going to need pumps for electrolytic separators and all that crap. I'm going to assume by now you figured that much out at least. And then for the setups for the sulfur, the gunpowder one, it's just one machine. You are already making the hydrogen chloride or whatever it's called. Yeah, hydrogen chloride. So you can just pump it over into the chemical injection chamber with your gunpowder. But that requires you to have a consistent gunpowder setup, you know, a creeper farm or whatever modded thing you got maybe. However, a tree farm's nice and easy. You can throw it automatically into a smelter that automatically feeds itself charcoal. However, it's going to be a couple more steps. You know, you have to have the PRC, pressurized reaction chamber, with water, so you're going to have a pump for that, and oxygen. So you're going to have an electrolytic separator to get the oxygen into that. Hopefully that made it understandable enough. I will have basically all the machines listed down below in the description for you. So you can just look at the list you need and then hopefully follow this disaster of a video from beginning to end. I think, let's see, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. So, if you got any helpful information from this video, please hit the like button down below. It really helps me, and it helps other people find this content that it might be helpful for them. Let me know in comments what I should cover next, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Click here to see my video about the thermal evaporation plants, and click here to watch a video YouTube thinks is the best for you. Pick one, they're both going to be good videos. Subscribe right there, and that'll be good. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.